But first, the US launched an unprecedented operation in Venezuela last night, capturing socialist dictator Nicolas Maduro and his wife. While Venezuelans were flooding the streets rejoicing, Western leftists, including here in Australia, launched nationwide rallies against the operation. Now, Hollie, I find this so ironic. You've got the Venezuelan people themselves who are flooding the streets, celebrating that finally they've been liberated from this dictator. And then you've got lefties, including in our own country, saying, hands off Venezuela. This is US imperialism. How delusional can they get?
Isn't it extraordinary that the professional protesters du jour, their little topic has changed? They've moved on from globalising the intifada to let's condemn the jailing of a narco-terrorist. I mean, these guys haven't met a dictator and a regime that punishes its people that it isn't prepared to support. And we see it whether they're supporting Gazans, and we know like how LGBT people are treated in Gaza, yet somehow or other we have queers for Palestine. I mean, let's just wait for the queers for Venezuela to come up. But I mean, it is just extraordinary that the way that they have just jumped on this anti-Trump brigade for whatever it is. I mean, look, it is extraordinary when you think of the international law around it and how that's going to be negotiated, but also the fact that there were arrest warrants in the US under narco-terrorism for Maduro, and they have what has been executed. And the Venezuelan population are rejoicing that this guy is gone, but they couldn't do anything about it themselves.
And this is the irony right here. Biden had a $25 million arrest warrant out for Maduro, but no one ever did anything about it. Trump got in and he said, well, if you play games, you're going to find out exactly what happens to you. And the other irony is you've got leftists who've spent the last 2 years calling Trump a dictator, calling him this authoritarian, rigging elections, and now they're out marching for someone who is literally a dictator, literally runs over protesters, imprisons opposition leaders, suspends elections. I'm starting to be genuinely concerned at the mental gymnastics going on.
These are the lefties who have spent the best part of 2025 holding up the No Kings protest sign. So no kings unless you are a complete dictator who, lets his country starve. Over 80% of Venezuelans live in poverty. Kids are eating out of garbage cans. A third of the population has had to flee the country. So unless you're that dictator, we stand right behind you. And already the hashtags of I stand with Venezuela. So you can turn to your Venezuelan next to you and say, no, I'd much rather your country be as it was before, 24 hours prior, when you were under this oppressor. Look, yeah, it is an extraordinary foreign policy move. I don't think I'm under any illusion, though, that Trump will do what suits Trump and that there are strategic moves here for the US. This is a country who holds the biggest oil supply in the world, and he is now apparently, running Venezuela for a while until we can find a democratic leader. And look, that type of power has got to be, it just comes in handy when you're negotiating with people to end wars like Putin, sitting around a table with China. That's quite a handy thing to have up your sleeve. But at the end of the day, you're right, the leftists who are out there who claim to care about human rights, the hypocrisy, you could not even dream about it.
And it was interesting, Hollie, because Trump and Secretary Marco Rubio explicitly cited the Monroe Doctrine, which says that in the Western Hemisphere, that is the US's hemisphere. No one else, not China, not Russia, not Iran, should have a foothold. Now, they were using Venezuela as a launching ground to exploit the natural resources, train their own people. It's just interesting to see finally a president who's actually willing to assert some authority.
I know, well, the Monroe Doctrine, as it's now referred to. But I'm glad you mentioned Biden, because I think we've got a copy of a tweet here that Joe Biden put out in 2020, one that has not aged particularly well, where he basically said that Trump was on the side of Maduro and would never take action against him, and that Biden himself was saying he stood with the Venezuelans. So it's amazing how what Biden said in 2020 has now completely been relegated because this is Trump. And you can see the anti-Trump sentiment that continues to come through here. I think what will be interesting as we watch the international politics play out, you know, you've got Cuba next on the agenda, you've got Greenland and what Trump's saying about Greenland. I think looking at this, though, you may have a very nervous Taiwan at what Xi may then take this as a sign of action that will be seen as potentially acceptable or already been precedented now. But, of course, we see our completely weak and pathetic Prime Minister come out with his own usual weak and pathetic statement. I mean, after his complete lack of leadership when it comes to the Bondi pogrom, seriously, just go away, mate. Like, you can't even get the politics right in Australia. Really, just keep your nose out of everywhere else because it's just appalling. But what's I think interesting and what we'll start to see the complexity roll out of this is Venezuela has a very similar makeup when it comes to mining, when it comes to the minerals and the reserves that are there, whether it's oil, whether it's iron ore, whether any of those resources are very similar to Australia. And we have seen a lot of investment in our country over the last half century because of the instability in South America. Now, if Trump's able to go in and make sure that you start to get a leader in there and democracy back into the country and it starts to run as a normal economy, not being run by a dictator and not a nationalised resources sector, Australia could be in for a world of pain because the complexity of our own sector now with the unions, with the industrial relations, how much we've put red tape and green tape around our resources sector, investment will potentially go offshore.
You're right. And Trump has said he wants to see US mining giants go into Venezuela, make billions of dollars. And of course, the lefties are freaking out at that. But the reality is that's how you rebuild the country.
Yep.
Because then from that tax revenue, you can start building infrastructure and really supporting the Venezuelan people. But it is interesting you mentioned Greenland there, Hollie. Now, Greenland could be next. Have a look.
We need Greenland from a national security situation. It's so strategic. Right now, Greenland is covered with Russian and Chinese ships all over the place. We need Greenland from the standpoint of national security. And Denmark is not going to be able to do it, I can tell you that.
Well, there you go, Hollie. We thought this drama was reaching a fever pitch, but there could be more to go if Trump moves into Greenland.
Honestly, this guy is just made for TV.